Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about STDs. Let's talk about all the bad things that can happen with unprotected sex. Let's talk about it.
Hello. Welcome to our lecture. I'm Izzy.
To begin, we would like to provide students the opportunity to reflect on what they may already know about sexual education. So we'll give you a quick 30 seconds to think about any type of sexually transmitted diseases you may know about, as well as types of contraceptions. Now that we've got your minds warmed up, let's begin.
This lecture is designed for 9th and 10th graders on the topic of health. The standard we chose to teach is the essential concepts of growth, development, and sexual health. Item 1.4G. Identify why abstinence is the most effective method for prevention of STDs, HIV, and pregnancy. The first major topic we want to discuss is HIV. HIV, or human immunodeficiency virus, is a sexually transmitted disease that breaks down the body's immune system, which is what we use to fight off bad bugs like diseases. According to the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, an estimated 1.1 million people in the United States had HIV by the end of 2016. Of those people, about 14%, or 1 in 7, did not know that they had HIV. Now, you might be asking, how does one get HIV? Well, HIV is transmitted through sexual intercourse, blood, and through pregnancy in the form of breastfeeding and childbirth. When HIV goes untreated, it can weaken one's immune system so that the individual develops AIDS. AIDS, which is an acronym for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome, usually develops in 8 to 10 years after someone gets HIV, if someone is not on medication. HIV targets and kills the body's CD4 T cells, which are the cells that kill off the bad guys in your body. When a person has less than 200 of those cells, their HIV is considered to have turned into AIDS. A person's symptoms of HIV or AIDS are dependent on the stage one is in. Some develop flu-like symptoms within the first 4 to 6 weeks after they get the virus. Those symptoms include fever, headaches, muscle and joint pain, rashes, sore and swollen throat and neck, diarrhea, weight loss, and cough. During the primary infection stage, one is at greatest risk for spreading HIV. The second stage is clinical latent infection, or chronic HIV. It is common for people not to have physical symptoms in this phase, but the infection is still present in your body and you can still pass it along. The third stage is symptomatic HIV infection. As the infection continues to kill off the body's white blood cells, people usually get worse symptoms such as fever, fatigue, swollen lymph nodes, diarrhea, weight loss, shingles, oral yeast infections, and/or pneumonia. The fourth stage is the potential progression to AIDS. People will often have similar or worse symptoms than those in stage 1 and 3, but the real issue with AIDS is that the body's weak immune system cannot fight off other infections or diseases, leaving your body particularly vulnerable. Unfortunately, there is no cure for HIV or AIDS, but there are certain medicines one can take to slow down the killing of your white blood cells. So you definitely don't want to get HIV. Luckily, there are some ways to avoid getting it. The first option is abstinence. However, if you are sexually active, use condoms, limit your number of sexual partners, and have you and your partner get tested regularly. Also, never share needles.
I'm Lauren. Finally, we want to discuss pregnancy. In 2017, 194,344 babies were born to mothers aged 15 to 19. Educating high school students on safe sex has helped decrease the number of teen moms each year. While abstinence is the best way to avoid pregnancy and avoid obtaining STDs, we know that this is often unlikely and teens should be prepared to have the knowledge that they need to stay safe and healthy. Many forms of contraception have been created to help prevent pregnancy, from low-maintenance birth controls to types that you use on a schedule. The implant and IUD are the most effective and low-maintenance forms of birth control. The implant is a small, thin rod that is placed in your upper arm by a doctor. This can stay in for up to 5 years and has a 99% effective rate. An IUD is a small T-shaped piece of plastic or copper that is placed into your uterus, also by a doctor, and can stay in for up to 3 to 6 years. It also has a 99% effective rate. Then there are birth controls that you take on a schedule. The birth control pill is the most popular and can be taken by mouth every day. However, one mistake can ruin your protection, so it's important that you do not forget. About 9 out of 100 women who take the pill get pregnant, only because of the misuse. Because of this misuse, this pill is only 91% effective. Then there are birth controls like the patch and shot that are also used on a schedule. The patch should be changed every 7 days and requires you to get prescriptions from your doctor to pick up at a pharmacy. It is extremely important that if you are taking these types of birth control that require you to stay on a schedule, that you do in fact stay on schedule. And don't forget, otherwise your protection with these contraceptions could be compromised. While these are great for protecting you against pregnancy, none of these contraceptions will protect you from STDs. It is recommended that you use a condom every time, even if you are taking a form of birth control, to give you extra protection. Stay safe, kids.
I'm Bailey. The next topic we want to discuss is STDs in general. STDs are sexually transmitted diseases that are spread from one person to another, usually during vaginal, anal, and oral sex, but can also be spread through childbirth and breastfeeding as well. Some of the most well-known STDs are chlamydia, crabs or pubic lice, genital herpes, hepatitis B, HIV and AIDS, HPV, syphilis, and gonorrhea. If the names aren't enough to gross you out, these facts and pictures just might. 75% of sexually active people will get HPV at some point during their lives. 1 in 2 sexually active young people will get an STD by the age of 25. Most young people that have STDs do not even know that they have them, which is why it is super important to get tested often. The number of new cases of STDs in the US each year is over 19 million. If STDs are left untreated, some can cause infertility or increase your risk of getting cancer. People ages 15 to 24 account for almost 50% of all new STDs, even though they represent just 25% of the sexually experienced population. 1 in 4 teens contract a sexually transmitted disease every year. Less than half of adults ages 18 to 44 have ever been tested for an STD other than HIV and AIDS. The 2 most common STDs are gonorrhea and chlamydia, and they often occur at the same time. They are both transmitted through vaginal, anal, and sometimes oral sex. Some symptoms of gonorrhea and chlamydia are abnormal vaginal discharge, frequent urination accompanied by a burning sensation, pain or pressure in the pelvic area, burning, itching, or redness in the vaginal area, and pain during or bleeding after intercourse or between periods. Both of them can lead to infertility, ectopic pregnancy, and chronic pelvic pain. If left untreated, gonorrhea can spread throughout your body and lead to arthritis, heart disease, and brain damage. So make sure you get tested.
Now that we've given you a quick overview on why it's important that abstinence is the best way to stay sexually safe, we'd like to provide some quick review questions. 1. What is the difference between HIV and AIDS, and how can they be treated once you've contracted it? 2. What are 3 different types of contraceptions you can use to prevent pregnancy? And 3. What's the best way to stay safe during sexual activities? Hint, we just told you. Now we'd like to leave you with this reflection question. How might you take action to help yourself or a friend who wasn't taught this important lesson to protect themselves during any sexual activities?